Hello students, and a very warm welcome to all of you. Online students, please confirm if I'm audible and visible. Please type in the comment box if I'm properly audible and visible to all of you. Okay, thank you for confirmation, Kangan and Kirti. Thank you for confirmation, Rahila. So I welcome you all. Kangan, please check your device as well, because I think for all the others it's audible and visible. So I hope all of you are doing great and your studies are going great as well. So in this session, we are going to actually brainstorm some main stuff, right? That's why the name Mainstorming Session. Before we begin, I want to take a poll, and please be honest. How many of you have attempted mains mocks so far? So please type the number. Assume that you are typing full length test, assuming 20 questions. How many mocks you have given so far? And if you have not given, please just type I am just starting my preparation, or 2027 or 26 attempt, whatever, right? Please increase the audio. They are saying for the offline students, how many mocks you have? 15. Okay, what about you? Not yet. Okay, so you are targeting which year? 27, 26. Okay, what about you? And have you written any mocks so far? Okay, Rishabh, that's decent. Ananta has given MSPs. So I'll say many of you have started. And again, I'm not discouraging anyone, but idea is you have to understand which part of this whole UPSC process will get you a rank. Is it prelims or is it mains? What do you think? It's mains, right? More or less everything is decided by mains, right? And I see this day in, day out. Students, whether they are freshers or they are begin their preparation, but still they are not writing mains test, right? Why that happens? There are so many test series out in the market, but at the same time there is no accountability, and many people, I've seen that many people do purchase test series, but at the same time they don't give those mock tests, and let alone not just giving, they don't know how to actually start. After that only they will continue and see how they are performing, how they can improve, right? So first step for you is you have to understand mocks are very important, and if you have not started yet, please start giving mocks, right? So I'm Shashank Gupta, heading Step Up Mentorship Program. In the beginning, I just want to set the agenda of this session. So obviously I'll try to focus what you have to focus on while giving mock tests, right? This is the first aspect that we'll cover. Then we'll see how to use mainstorming, right? How to actually brainstorm on these mains questions, previous year questions, and all the current affairs, etc., so that you can improve your scores, improve your marks. This is the second agenda of this session. And finally, we'll see how you can analyze your mocks. So you have given some mocks, right? So what's your parameters to analyze the mocks?
I actually don't analyze.
Okay, you don't analyze. No analysis. Have you done analysis for prelims at least? Okay. So students, online students, please confirm. How do you do the analysis part? When you are giving mocks, how do you analyze the mocks? And again, not just random analysis. Do you do? Okay, you use ChatGPT. Okay. What mistakes do you check, Swaminathan? Okay, Maitri is saying you check your marks and then you check the model answers along with the remarks. That's reasonable. But again, the agenda of this session would be to actually teach you to assess your test as well, right? Obviously, you need your support from the mentors, etc. But also you are with yourself 24/7, right? So you have to take advantage of that so that you can analyze mocks yourself as well, right? So in this session, we are going to cover that part. So if I ask you in the very beginning, so whenever there is a mock in front of you, whether it's 20 marks or half length test, or if you are analyzing previous years, right? So what do you focus on? So if I have to ask you what makes an answer a good answer, What is it that makes an answer from a good answer? Anandita, what about you?
Think as per question, spirit of the question.
Spirit of the question. Okay. What do you think? Okay. Involving different aspects. All right. Online students have perfect examples. Again, there is nothing perfect, but again, I get your point. You check for authenticity. Okay. Someone is saying introduction has to be contextual, right? So again, you are right in your own ways, bits and pieces, but once and for all, I want to settle this for you so that you don't struggle in future, right? Whenever you are writing UPSC mains answer, you have to focus on these 7 steps, right? These 7 important aspects. And again, no one knows on which parameter UPSC will judge, but again, through the course of experience of all the toppers, aspirants, we have again come up with these 7 parameters, and it actually covers everything, right? So first thing is, many of you actually suggested that you have to understand the demand of the question. What is the demand of the question? What do you mean by demand of the question?
It means what questions are asking. What it means. What,
No issues. Okay. What do you think is the demand of the question when I ask demand of the question? So someone is saying tail word, basically directive word. I think that's what you mean, right? Also the theme, yes, core idea, that is also there, right? So yes, this is there, but again, there are several aspects of demand of the question. Sometimes examiner is explicitly telling you that you have to answer this, right? That is core demand, and then something there is implicit within that. And many of the aspirants, specifically if they are beginning, they also leave this demand untouched. And this is what separates our toppers level answers from an average aspirant's answer, right? So first thing is you have to understand the demand of the question. Then you have to have proper structure. So when I talk about structure in UPSC, let's keep it very simple: introduction, body, and conclusion. This is what you need, right? No fancy stuff, nothing else. But you have to include introduction, you have to have body, and then you have to have conclusion. So when I'm talking about body, one thing you have to understand is, by whenever you are reading a question, you have to see how many parts are there so that you can balance everything, right? You can balance every part. Otherwise, what happens is, I've seen many students say there is a 10 marker question, there are 2 parts, they write 1.5 page for just the first part, right? And the second part they barely touch. So if you are an examiner and you have, suppose, 10 marks question, 5 marks for first part, 5 marks for second part. So imagine if you have even given the best answer for the first part, you will not score more than 2, 2.5, 3 marks, right? So it's a blunder on your part, right? So first you have to understand demand, then you have to follow the proper structure, wherein when I talk about structure, you also have to balance all the parts of the question. Now, third thing and most important thing when you are starting is introduction. Sir, I'll come to that. Swaminathan. So whenever you are starting an answer, you'll write a introduction. So there are some students who will come to me and say, sir, we have written mains. Sometimes we are not able to give introduction in, say, 2 or 3 answers because of lack of time. That's fine, right? If you have to choose between the body, the content, the crux, you always go with the crux. But again, that should be out clear, right? It should not be the phenomena that you are using, not giving introduction in every answer. So idea is you have to have impactful introduction. Impactful means it should be objective and it should be adding some value. It should not be generic, right? So it should be specific, it should be objective and precise. So if I have to give you a hint, suppose this is a A4 size paper, so 3 to 4 lines maximum, 3 to 4 lines maximum for the introduction part, right? So that you don't overdo it. Otherwise, I'll show the examples as well, because when you stretch your introduction too long, it leaves very little space for main demand of the question, right? So that's there. Then when you have written the introduction, you will come to the body, and in body you will have to balance the parts. Within the parts, always try to hit the core theme, right? Try to prioritize your points. Try to give everything with clarity and depth, right? You have to balance it out. So suppose there is a sub theme, always try to write in pointers form, specifically GS 1 to 3 answers, because again this is a competitive exam, and everyone else will be writing at least 10-12 points. I'm talking about toppers. So if you're writing in paragraphs, I'm not discouraging you, but idea is either you have to be very good so that you can precisely convey many dimensions. We had toppers like Vishakha Yadav ma'am, who has used that as well. But at the same time, majority of others, point-wise format works better, right? This you can discuss with your mentors as well. Then you have to focus on the presentation, right? So obviously, content is very important. Content will always remain the king. This is always applicable for mains as well as prelims. So when I talk about prelims, static always remains most important aspect, right? Similarly in mains, your content is the king, but presentation is the queen, right? So people who are going to write mains, 10-12,000 people suppose writing mains. So everyone has the ideas, everyone has decent level of content. What differentiates toppers is their presentation, right? So they use diagrams, they use maps, they use headings, they use subheadings, they highlight the keywords, right? These are some of the ways of presentation in which you can enhance your answer. Then UPSC also judges you based on your innovation, and specifically it is applicable in analytical subjects like ethics, essays, and obviously in some other subjects like polity as well, right? So innovations and critical thinking, how you can think beyond between the lines, right? That is a very important skills, and all these we are going to discuss in this session as well, but I wanted to give you an overview, so what is needed in an answer. And finally, you have to give very precise conclusion so that you leave on a very positive note, balanced note, and it is just after conclusion examiner will award you marks, right? So if you mess this up, it may impact your score as well, right? So these are some of the parameters and most important parameters on which your answers will be judged. Now, from next time, whenever you are giving marks, try to think in these dimensions, that I have to write precise introduction. Why? Again, I can take a whole class on this concept, but idea is you should know what is important. Next thing is, whenever you are writing answers, first thing should click that I have to understand the demand of the question, because if you're not understanding the demand of the question, doesn't matter how good your content you have delivered, right? It's like a faulty GPS. You will not reach your destination. So first understand the demand, then you have proper structure, then you will give a very precise objective introduction to make the job easier for the examiner. So these things you have to follow. I hope you are with me. If you have any confusion so far, please ask the questions. Do you have any confusion so far? Any issue?
Problem is word limit.
Word limit. So what's the problem?
Problem is मैं लिखता हूँ क्वेश्चन तो word limit ज़्यादा हो जाता है.
How many? Do you? That's why.
160 to 170 words.
So that is okay. That is okay. Dekho, it's not watertight, right? Yes, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. Akshit, we'll discuss various types of introduction, and I'll actually ask you to brainstorm that. We'll come to that point. So basically, word limit is, dekho, when you read a book, if I ask you to concise everything in one page, can you do that? No, right? It is by whenever you have, suppose 200-page document, you'll revise it, you'll concise it in say 150-page document. Then you'll concise it in 100-page document. Then you'll concise it in 50-page document. So first thing is, to write precisely, you will need your notes, right? If there is no, how many of you have notes for mains specifically? If I ask you to revise polity from mains point of view, how much time will you take? Or how bulky your notes are? Please type in the comment box so that I understand the audience, right? I understand you better. Online students, please be a bit more interactive. Right, I'll come to that, Akshil. We'll come to that. Yes. So, how many of you actually have notes for mains? Do you have that? So, how many pages for polity? So, if you have that much concise notes, now idea is revise it multiple times, then actually practice it, right? That's why we are having this session. So basically, someone is telling, say, 300 pages. When you start, it is supposed to be that way, right? So notes will be bulky, but by multiple level of iterations of revisions, you will actually condense it, right? So whenever you are revising, things will stick. And second thing is you have to auto recall, you have to active recall, you have to do brainstorming, and that's how you will learn. And this is the session that that's why we are having. 1500 is too much, please concise it, right? Now, why brainstorming is very important? Because you have a lot of ideas. Sometimes you have again plenty of ideas, you don't know which points to write, right? Sometimes you do not have idea at all. So when you are brainstorming, it will help you in generation of ideas. Second thing is, maybe you have 20 points, you have read a book about election commission. So how would you filter out, right? So you have to organize your points, and that will only happen when you have done the practice, right? I'll try to upload that, Ritika. I'll try to upload that. So strategic organization will only happen when you brainstorm. It's like practicing before your actual match. So if you are not having net sessions, you will not score a century, right? Obviously there will be some outliers, but idea is most of the people will not perform if you are not practicing, right? So strategic organization will only be there when you are brainstorming. Third is, and this is most important even for veteran students, so prioritization of points. So suppose you have 5 points with you, right? Issues with election commission. So someone will say funding should not be the first point. There will be some structural issues, institutional issues, you should include those in the very beginning, right? Then you have to have multi-dimensional thinking, right? Someone pointed out that UPSC will expect multi-dimensional answers from you because you are going to be a bureaucrat who has to serve various aspects of society, right? So multi-dimensional thinking is the prime asset for you, right? And that should be reflected in your answers as well, and that will only happen when you are brainstorming. Okay? And most importantly, again, timely completion of the paper itself. If you want to complete the paper, you have to have brainstorming with you. You have to have previous brainstorming sessions, right? Anyone who has given mains, online students, have you given mains? Okay. So are you able to complete, anyone who has given mains and tests, basically, are you able to complete the paper in time? So Jay, were you able to complete this mains paper in time? Okay, no. Did your pen stop when you were writing answers? Were you actually thinking before writing, or it was naturally flowing it for you? Okay, Swaminathan, for some reason all your answers turns into 250 words. Again, it's good for 15 markers but not for 10 markers, and that's why you have to practice, right? You have to brainstorm, you have to have your specific notes. Okay, so you were able to complete in some papers, most of you were not, right? So idea is, when you don't have specific notes, when you don't brainstorm, you are not giving your best, and you cannot expect the best results then, right? Yes, if you देखो, idea is no one is perfect, so you have to practice it beforehand so that you don't have to stop there in the mains exam hall to actually think for 3 minutes and write. It's okay to pause for 30 seconds or 60 seconds maximum, but more than that it's a blunder, right? More than that you will not be able to complete the paper otherwise. Okay? And finally, there are so many questions that are bounces. So when you brainstorm regularly, when you interconnect regularly, probability will be you will get those skills to even attempt those bounces. When I say bounces, say they have talked about, say, lion and bull. You have read all the ancient art and culture, but they go on ask about specific significance of lion and bull in Indian art and architecture. So you can prepare these things. So these are the bounces I'm talking about, and that will only happen when you have the skills to brainstorm. So how to arrive at an answer, at least certain points, right? So this is the agenda of this session. Now, I'll give you a question. Let's do a live demo. I'll begin with a very basic stuff. All of you must have read something about election commission, right? So this is a question on election commission. Let's brainstorm and let's be interactive, online students specifically. So please take your pen and paper out and try to write. I'll give you a time. Try to write alongside me, right? Try to brainstorm and write an introduction. So first exercise would be to write an introduction. So this is what we will do in this session. I'll ask you some questions. I'll ask you to write, and then we'll come up with whatever we can in the this video and this session. Okay. So this is the first question. Discuss the role of Election Commission as an autonomous constitutional authority responsible to conduct free and fair election in India. So I want you to pause and write. Pause for 60 seconds. Write an introduction, and then we'll come back again. Right? You start writing. So this is a question about Election Commission. Your first task would be to decode the demand of the question, and then specifically write 1 or 2 types of introduction if you're comfortable. Rishabh, now you have 60 seconds with you. Think and write. Yes, Swaminathan, this is decent enough. But yes, we can improve it further by authenticating, right? So you have given a historical fact that yes, it has gained a reputation. It would be better if you can quote something. We'll come to that. What about others? So I'll wait 30 more seconds. Then I would like to hear some answers from you. Have you written? What is it that you have written?
Article 324 of the Indian Constitution are
Okay. Can you think of anything else?
We can quote like election commission is the second pillar of.
Yes. What about others?
Role of PCI in conducting elections, like subheading, preparing electorals, providing symbols to political parties, etc.
Okay. So this is good. Jay, your introduction is decent in the sense you have the idea, but what I can tell you is this all seems very generic kind of stuff, right? When I'm saying generic, again, you replace ECI with say UPSC, it will remain the same, right? So it is not adding specific value to this particular institution. So yes, so let me come back to types of introduction. So again, we can have a separate session for various frameworks, but again, in this very session, I'll try to come up with as much as I can in this very session. So first thing is introduction. There are various ways. In this question, what you can have is contextual introduction, right? So right now there is lot of debate regarding SIR going on, right? So you can use, yes, very nice. Shubham is saying the same thing. So basically, this SIR exercise highlights the role of Election Commission as fair and fair institution that has to uphold the trust of the citizens, right? Yes, that is there. So Election Commission, right? So this is second way. So what Shiv is saying is second way. So first way is contextual introduction. Second way is you can use a constitutional article, that is 324. You have also written constitutional article. What about you? What you have written? Okay. Okay. What about you? Yeah, fair enough.
Article 334 of the Constitution advocates
Okay.
Election commission is very important to uphold the ideas. There is one chief election commission and two other election commissioners.
Okay. Decent attempt, but what's the problem in your introduction? Very lengthy. Very lengthy. First point was you have to keep your introduction precise, right? 2 to 3 lines maximum, right? This is the first thing. There are several kinds of introduction, my dear. You can start with a Supreme Court case. Swaminathan is asking what are the alternatives. So I have given you 3 types of introduction. There can be others as well, right? When I'm saying quote, you can quote a constitutional scholar, right? So basically you can quote someone like S.Y. Qureshi, who was previous chief election commissioner. You can quote founding fathers who has said something in constitutional assembly, right? So you can quote these authoritative figures. Quote based introduction is also there. You can directly quote a book as well if you know one, right? So idea is there can be several types of introduction, and I am decently happy with your response. I knew you would write this in one go, and more or less you will write decently. Why is that case? Because polity, all of you are familiar, right? And this is the point I wanted to highlight by this exercise, that polity you will read day in, day out. You will read your Lakshmikant, you will read your class notes. Even in newspapers, there will be something or the other every day about polity. So you have this commonsensical knowledge as well. So this is something that you have to understand. Every subject should be equally important. So the more you read, the better you will become. It should come in your reflex memory, muscle memory, right? And that's why what I'm trying to tell you here is there is no dearth of questions. You can have your test series questions, you can have previous year questions, you can have some toppers copies. Just pick out some questions every day and try to brainstorm, right? Maybe write maybe 3-4 introductions every day. And mind you, if you can have a register for that, suppose I have a register, say 4 parts of register, I'll have 5 introductions every day. How many topics are there for society? If I ask you in GS1, how many topics are there that you have to prepare for society? 15 to 20. So if you can do this exercise, say for secularism, communalism, globalization, right, women's organizations, women empowerment, in 4 to 5 days you will feel confident in writing, at least in writing introductions. Similarly, you can write conclusions as well. So maybe 3 introductions per day, 3 conclusions per day. No one will tell you this. Many will tell you all the frameworks, etc. But idea is, it's not about having knowledge. That is not enough. You should have that knowledge imprinted on your brain, and that will only happen when you brainstorm and then actually write it down, right? So try to have these kinds of booklets for you, your own notes, so that you can use it in future. So again, when you have the confidence of writing good introductions, now you write anyone who has given mains, they will say, sir, after a certain point of time the mind will go in autopilot. वो body लिख लेंगे आप. मैं नहीं कह रहा बहुत अच्छी लिखेंगे, but at least you will write. But many people struggle with the introduction, and that's why they waste a lot of time. You ask many aspirants who have written this mains for the first time, they'll say 15 minutes तो first question में निकल गए, 20 minutes first question में निकल गए, because you tend to think a lot. Introduction is like introducing yourself. If I am taking your interview, my first question will be introduce yourself. But if you take all the time in introduction, obviously there will not be any time for all the other stuff. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Now, I hope it is clear. What do you remember the quote? The idea is you should, but again, it will only by practice. If you cannot quote a person, you can, if it is powerful words, you can still write it down. But again, if the words are also very generic, then adopt second kind of introduction. Okay, Kavyanjali? Okay, so this is a copy. Someone was mentioning she has written decently, but again, it is too long, right? This is not what we need. Similarly, this is one of the copies who has written half a page about introduction. She has actually started with a quote. That is okay. But you cannot go and ramble for half a page just for introduction, right? Similarly, this. So idea is you keep your introduction very short. So basically 3 lines with specific articles, that's all. Okay. Now I'll give you let's play a game. I am giving you one word, right? Corruption or integrity. Let's take integrity. So you have to write a question, several type of introductions regarding corruption or integrity. 60 seconds, you write. Online students as well. I'll wait for 30 more seconds. I'm not giving you a question right now, just a term, integrity, and then you can make some introductions. Without any context, you can make some introductions. Have you done that? Okay.
Corruption perception index has figured out that corruption in India is at its peak, especially in police and other departments.
Okay. Decent enough. So the word was integrity, right? So what is it that you thought? If I ask you the first person that came to your mind when I talked about integrity, so that's okay. Corruption or integrity, both works. What is it? Ratan Tata. Okay. Have you written any introduction regarding that as well? Okay. What about this? Okay. Okay, online students. इसको scroll नीचे करना. ठीक है. Let's stop. So if I ask you one person, when you talked about corruption or integrity, doesn't matter, you should remember one or two people, right? If I talk about integrity, say many people will think of Ashok Khemka or Ratan Tata. Okay. Now, what can be the introduction? So if there is a question on integrity, it relates to your ethics. So what can be different ways to introduce? If there is a question on integrity, how can you introduce? You can define the term, right? Secondly, you can use a contextual introduction. There, every day you will find some cases against again administrators, bureaucrats, everyone, right? So yes, that is there. Can you quote something? Even second ARC has said this, right? Jay, whatever you are writing, that is true. But again, try to have an authentic quote. Okay? So you can quote someone. You can have a current example. You can also define that particular thing, right? This is the way you can build on some of the topics that are very important and very recurring, right? So first thing is you can link with the news. You can define what is integrity or corruption, or you can also have a quote around it, right? These are the 3 exercises that you can also encompass. Okay? Yes, inner compass of civil servant aligning with conscience, law, and justice. But again, try to be more specific. You can use a quote of something like integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching, right? So C.S. Lewis has used this. Now, I'm giving you a question again. Online students, is the immoral that of putting self-benefit over others? Yes, when you are using these, again, it is not a standard definition. Either use a standard definition, how Word Bank defines integrity or Word Bank defines corruption, or otherwise at least use an example. Devi Prasad, this is decent enough, but again try to use an example as well. ठीक है, scroll करते हैं, right? ठीक है, okay. Now this is a question. Please read this question carefully and try to come up with 2 introductions now. Dekho, Swaminathan is asking, when you are using quotes, is it too much poetry? So Swaminathan, idea is never use similar kinds of introduction for all the answers, right? So I'm giving you a variety of introductions, right? You can use a book, you can use a quote of eminent scholar, you can define something, you can use current affairs, you can even use sometimes Supreme Court cases, right? So there are so many types of introduction. You have 13 answers in ethics paper. No one will know what you have written in GS2 answer. Now you have only 13 answers or 20 answers. So try to mix and match. Always remember, don't make the job too monotonous, right? So try to mix and match according to demand of the question, right? There will be some specific questions that will ask you to define as well. Yes. Okay. Krishna is specifically giving example. So that is also decent, Krishna. But that should be example, and that should be a bit precise. Not example. When I say example, it should not tell the whole story, right? It should be more or less maximum 1 line, right? Not more than that. What you have written in this particular assignment? Have you written something? Please try to write. The idea of this session is to take out this phobia, right? Otherwise, we will not benefit. Okay, so this is a question again. In a diverse and pluralistic society, tolerance and compassion are essential virtues for promoting ethical governance. Now, the first thing that you have to understand is what is the demand of the question. This is one more assignment for you. What is the demand of the question? And then you have to actually write an introduction. In the context of ensuring inclusive development of weaker sections, examine how these values can be integrated into public administration. Provide relevant examples to support your answer. The first task is understanding demand. If you can, understand core demand and non-core demand. And then finally, give me an introduction. You have 2 minutes for this exercise. The clock is showing 6:08. I'll wait till 6:10. So take 2 minutes and then come back again. Swaminathan, this is the question. I hope it is visible. If it is not visible, please let me know, online students. In a diverse and pluralistic society, I'll spell it out. Tolerance and compassion are essential virtues for promoting ethical governance. In the context of inclusive development of weaker sections, examine how these values can be integrated into public administration. You have to support your argument with examples. This is the question. Don't be a passive listener. Please participate actively. Please try to think about this question. Yes, first understand the demand, Swaminathan, and then try to give an introduction. Maybe you can apply the same framework that we use in the earlier one as well, but give me an introduction, written introduction. Okay, final 30 seconds. Okay, Kavyanjali, decent attempt. You are showing the intent to use a quote. That is good. But always remember that it should not breach the word limit, right? So maybe you can reduce a line or something. Otherwise, it's decent enough. What about others?
To strengthen inclusive development, bigger sections like women poor should be of various values like tolerance, compassion, creativity.
Okay. Do you see the problem in this introduction? It is not talking about the core values. Again, it is going in generic lines. कि उनका अच्छा करने के लिए ये होना चाहिए, right? This we can include in the body part with some form of idea, right? कि how it will be beneficial for weaker sections. But in introduction, it should be crisp, precise, and objective enough. What about you? Please try. Okay. देखो Shubham, this question is not about in general values, right? This is not about values in general. So as I said, obviously the things you are mentioning is correct, but at the same time, it is not capturing the core demand, right? The code, first understand the core demand here. Let me help you understand. So in a diverse and pluralistic society, tolerance and compassion are essential virtues for promoting ethical governance. Now, in the context of this statement, it's like something happened last night. Now, in the context of that incident, understand what are the issues women are facing, right? Something like that. So, in the context of this, you have to understand, examine how these values can be integrated. So, integration of these values is the core demand. What is the core demand? Integration of these two values, that is tolerance and compassion. So specific values are being talked about, tolerance and compassion, and then how it can be integrated. So first thing is, yes, this is the core idea. That again, yes, that is okay, that is good. Start with this is no accident. Swaminathan, the introduction is too long. You have to cut it short, right? Ideas are good, but finally, is it serving my purpose? Yes, tolerance and key are key values to resolve conflicts. That is true. That is true. But at the same time, you have to understand it is giving a sense of conclusion that it is very much important for resolving the conflicts. So how it is significant, right? So you can use it as a conclusion rather than just as an introduction, Mohammed, right? So first thing is, as I told you, this is the non-core part. So you need not have points regarding that. But idea is tolerance and compassion. So you can define tolerance and compassion, the key values here, or you can use someone who has used this quote. So someone in the online students has used some quote regarding Mahatma Gandhi. That is also true. Also, many times presidential addresses, many times PM Modi is saying something. So you can also use those quotes. Okay? So tolerance, compassion, and patriotism serves as India's core values, or you can link it to the idea of India, right? Idea of India itself is rooted in tolerance and compassion. You can quote this book, Idea of India, right, by Sunil Kilneni. Okay? So this can be one type of introduction. When you are using some eminent scholar, you can define this, or you can directly quote, right? So it is these are not sign of weakness but of strength. So quote is also important that you can use. You can use some current event. You can define the term altogether. Okay? So these are some of the ways. Not ethical governance. Dekho Priyanshu, what you are trying to say is okay, but it is not directly linked to the demand of the question. Demand is how these values can be integrated in public administration. It is not talking directly about good governance, right? So again, okay, Renu, this has to be improved. So let's move on. Let's move on. Again, I'll give you some other subject. Now, this is a question regarding your internal security, left-wing extremism is showing a downward trend, but still affects many part of the country. Tolerance and compassion helps in ethical governance and motivate high. बहुत बड़ा है. It is too long. Yes, that is okay, Krishna. Okay, so let's come to this. Now we have covered ethics. We have taken a few of polity. Now let's come to GS3, that is internal security. Left-wing extremism is showing a downward trend, but it still affects many parts of the country. Okay. Now you have to briefly explain the government of India's approach to counter challenges posed by this left-wing extremism. Now again, the same process. You have to understand the demand of the question and then write an introduction. Devi Prasad, Akib, Shweta, Muskan, I want answers from you. I'll try to share this PDF with you all after the session itself. I do not believe that power flows from the barrels of the gun. That's good. But now link this to this demand of the question. A minute. I want the demand of the question here, and second thing is introduction. Very good attempt, Divyanshu. Very good. Priyanshu, again a good introduction. Why this is good? Because you have used the data, you have understood the context, you have used a quote. Have you written it? What's the demand first of all? Is this the core demand? Is this the core demand? Okay.
Is showing downward trend, and what are the government approach to counter it?
Now, understand one thing. They are not asking a question here, right? Left-wing extremism is showing a downward trend, but still affects many parts of the country. There's no question here. There's a statement. So it's an observation. It forms non-core part, right? It forms non-core part. While the core part is, you have to briefly explain the approach of government of India, right? Getting my point? So this is the core demand. Now, after this question, you should not struggle with core and non-core demand first of all, right? So how to incorporate non-core? Maybe in introduction. So you give some data around it so that it will say to the examiner, yes, I have incorporated this part. Maybe after introduction, you use some stat, some map, some diagram, some graph sort of thing. Okay? That is it. You need not go why it is declining now. That's not the question. They would have asked you discuss the reasons for the decline. They are not asking that. You have to understand, you have to save your time and space, both of them, in your mains exam. Okay? So that is there. Now, so how to introduce? A very good way is to give data, right? When I talk about internal security, when I talk about social justice, education, health, always, or economy aspects, try to use data. That is one of the best ways to introduce your argument, right? So left-wing extremism districts have come down from 72 to 58 specifically. This they have told in a report. Similarly, again, you can quote our Home Minister as well. Honorable Home Minister has said that we'll eliminate that scourge of left-wing extremism by 2026. That is also a quote. That is also a data sort of thing. So better to integrate that. If you don't know anything, then you can define what left wing extremism is, and then maybe use a map to show the areas which are affected, right? Whenever you are defining something, try to use some validation after that. Again, this is the priority. Always try to go with this flow. This is the first priority here, because you are quoting some data. Then you quote definition at the very end. Okay? Understanding my point? And Kangan, you don't have to go into the whole story of it, right? This is, you don't need to tell the whole story of left wing extremism. Again, this is also one way to introduce historical introductions, but this will not suit our purpose right now. You need not give history because it is talking about contemporary changes. Okay, Kangan? I hope you get it. Now, okay, I hope you are comfortable with introductions now, and this is what I wanted to tell you after introductions. So I told you about non-core part, right? So how do you stand out? You will stand out by giving some data, how it has progressed or something like that. So whenever there is some, say, left-wing extremism question, there are so many ways in which you can actually add value. You can use a map, right? You can show these graphs. You can, again, this is the evolution. If you want to show something, evolution, history, someone was talking about history, show it in stages after introduction. But always remember, this should not exceed half of page, right? So if you have A4 size paper, maybe 3 lines of introductions, and then you have this schematic or some graph sort of thing, right? But don't exceed more than half a page. Otherwise, you will miss out on the core demand of the question. And always remember, you will be judged more on the crux of the question, the main demand of the question. Okay? I hope you get this point. So in these ways, you can add some value after that. Now let's try to brainstorm through the whole body part, right? We have done the introductions, right? Are you comfortable in introductions now? I'm not saying wholeheartedly, but again, you must have got some idea, right? So I'll give you 2 minutes now to think about the points as much as you can regarding this question. No introductions right now, just brainstorm some points. Discuss the impact of digital technology on governance in India, right? This is a very simple question. First, understand the demand of the question, and then try to, I'm not asking you to write the points, but at least have something written on the paper, maybe some keywords, maybe some one-liners or something like that. That can be a good conclusion. Krishnamurthy, what you are suggesting is a very good way to conclude as well, right? So better to use that in conclusion. Right? Now, take 2 minutes and try to discuss the impact of digital technology on governance in India. Right. So I hope you have done some brainstorming. Shall we begin? So what is it that you have in mind when you thought about digital technology? What do you mean by digital technology, and what do you mean by governance?
Some example about the governance, like in the front having some biometric and real system of linking around that without the core demand of the question is impact of digital technology on governance in India, challenges in adopting digital technology in governance, and way forward in the country.
Okay, so you have at least outlined the structure. That is okay. What about you?
The digital technology will help to complete the task and make our task easier.
So basically, efficiency aspect you have written. So understanding the point. Instead of writing the whole line, the keyword is efficiency, right? What about you? Right,
and it helps in development of remote areas.
right,
Digital technology has helped in linking various departments and ministries by making the collaborative policies,
right.
and it is also helpful in reducing corruption through initiatives like RTI weekend, like digitally.
Mm-hmm. ठीक है, that is fair enough. What about you? Grassroot upliftment, ठीक है.
Digital divide is like
Okay.
people have access to the information, but government ministry.
So basically, yes, transparency has increased, right? What else? So basically, you have used the example. Many of you have written decently. At least you have brainstormed some points. Ki Aadhaar is there, UPI is there. So first thing that should come to your mind is, what is digital technology? So we have used this DBT thing, right? So Aadhaar, you have various kinds of stacks, tech stacks that we are using. So you can again first think of various dimensions of technology, right? We have, when you think about the dimensions of technology, right? So you can start with Jam Trinity, right? You have blockchain, you have cloud. I'm not asking you to write answers in this way. I'm asking you to brainstorm. Okay? So first is, these are some of the digital technologies, right? We have cloud. So when we talk about cloud, we will have Umang app, right? So this way your brain should work. So first thing is, you have understood digital tech. Now you have to understand what are the parameters on which we can see whether it has led to the positive impact or not. What are the parameters of governance or good governance? What are those parameters? So World Bank has defined 8 parameters for good governance, right? So you have transparency, you have accountability, you have responsiveness, right? These kinds of things. So now you link. So first thing is, you have to understand that the keyword here is discuss. You have to discuss the impact. So obviously impact will be positive, but there will be certain issues that will remain, right? So these are two main core demands of the question. Now inherent in this is non-core part, because there will be some challenges, so you have to suggest some suggestions as well. So these are 3 demands, 2 core and 1 non-core, right? Getting my point? Now the main thing is linkage of this, how digital technology can affect governance in positive or negative ways, right? So what are the, obviously many of you has given me the positive way, and this is the issue. When you think about the impact, you will always think about positive impact. What about the negative impact? So can we become a surveillance state, right? If government has all the information on you, we can be transformed into surveillance state. There will be violation of right to privacy. They can be, right? There have been several instances of Aadhaar data, right? These are genuine concerns, right? So first thing is, try to establish the link, how these digital technologies will lead to greater accountability, responsiveness, these World Bank parameters, right? I hope you will do that part. Okay? Yes, very nice. So basically, first establish this interlinkage, and on what parameters? Those 8 parameters. Then there will be 2 points, one positive and one negative. So this is what you have to at least brainstorm. Getting my point? And then many of you will again leave that part, how to actually make it better. So better data protection laws, better coordination, right? All these things are there. Okay, online students, I'm expecting something more from you as well, some more answers. Obviously whatever you are suggesting, like digital tech has used, had led to better efficiency. So always quote an example, right? Like MNREGA का ज़्यादा distribution हुआ, funds का अच्छा distribution हुआ है, right? These are something that you have to specify. So idea is whenever you are writing answers, you will obviously have an introduction. After introduction, you will give a heading, positive impact, है ना? Within that, you will have subheadings, right? Led to greater accountability, led to more responsiveness. You will write a point and then substantiate with example, report, data, etc. Now the challenge is when you will begin, you may not have many data with you. Always try to compile some data with you, 1 or 2 pages, so that you can revise that regularly. That's how you will actually learn. Okay? So I hope this is clear. Now let's try again. This is the structure that you have to understand. First, define the question clearly and break it down, right? And then try to generate as many ideas as possible for yourself. Now let's do this question. In the light of increasing incidents of suicides among students in India, discuss how emotional intelligence can aid in managing stress and emotional challenges. Getting my point? What is the question? Which subject? Ethics. What is the theme? Emotional intelligence. Now you have to at least brainstorm. Give me the structure of this answer, and maybe some, if you can think of something unique. Okay? I'm giving you 2 minutes. Brainstorm on this. Students. Shall we start? Muskan, Shweta, Devi Prasad, Tejas, are you ready? Okay, Devi Prasad, I want some answer from you now. Shweta? Akib has written, it can be used to tackle work pressure, economic burden, or educational burden and fear of failure as an exam. Do you think this point is correct? Can EI be actually useful in handling work pressure or educational burden? Is this true? It is true, right? But students, you have to understand, this is what I call generic points. Yes, the idea is true, but why? Focus on the why. And this is where you have to have good grasp over the content part, the static part. So what are the components of AI? If I ask you what are the components of AI, इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस के कंपोनेंट्स होते हैं, गोलमैन ने दिए हैं. व्हाट आर दस? देयर आर 4 कंपोनेंट्स. यस. सो बेसिकली यू हैव सेल्फ अवेयरनेस, यू हैव सेल्फ रेगुलेशन, राइट? पढ़ा है नहीं पढ़ा अभी तक आप लोगों ने? यस, इंट्रोडक्शन इज फाइन. बॉडी ओवर EQ, cope up mechanism. Yeah, देखो, you are writing decently, but idea is, issue is you have to link what is the theory and how it will be helpful. So suppose these are the 4 components of AI, that you are self-aware, right? Then you have social awareness around you, relationship management, right? So when you are self-aware, yours self-management will come. So these are suppose these are components of AI. And efforts begin from home itself. Firstly, challenge. इतना बड़ा नहीं लिखना please. Lack of, as per model of, देखो Devi Prasad, you have bluffed there. So as per the model of, either Goldman has not conducted a study on suicides in India, or otherwise you are quoting some other data. So quote that data, right? So when you are self-aware, when you know what emotions you are feeling, you will be in a better position to handle it better, right? I am feeling depressed right now. Now when this will happen, you will talk to your friend, your family, so it will reduce the possibility of suicide. So idea is, your points are right, but you have to understand the link between this component and how it will lead to reduction in possibility of suicide, right? This is the issue with students, specifically in ethics. They mug up, because obviously you will know emotional intelligence is a very important topic, but when the question comes, you have to understand to modify it according to demand of the question, right? So how it can reduce the stress. अब stress है आपको, तो EI कैसे help करेगा? People will say, someone in the introduction said it will help in reduction of stress. How? And that's the question. So because you are first self-aware, because you have social awareness, because you can manage some relationship better, relationship management is better, you will be in a better position, because you know your emotions, you will convey the emotion to the others as well. Abhi mera baat karne ka man nahi hai, suppose, right? When you communicate, the other person will also understand. Now this is the first level. In the light of increasing incidents, EI, they are not telling about individuals only. Obviously individuals will have AI. So at the level of individual, we have to do an analysis, but at the level of families, at the level of society, some society are more emotionally intelligent, right? They don't respond to all the criticisms in a negative way. They have this absorption power as well. They understand their perspectives, they balance their emotions, right? To outright ban on something like burqa, that is lack of emotional intelligence, some level, right? So basically idea is, you have emotional intelligence at the levels of individuals, families, societies, even institutions, right? So when someone said that the institution of election commission is rigged, right? They had this composure to come out with the facts, and that is emotional intelligence, not coming out with all the political things. That is emotional intelligence. This is something that you have to understand, right? So when we are talking about suicide will happen because of various reasons. Maybe because of unemployment, maybe because of breakups, maybe because of your own studies pressure, right? So how these stakeholders will come in place? So if a society or family is more emotionally intelligent, they will not burden their child with all the results. Governments will have various institutional mechanisms, right? Health centers will be there, mental health care will be provided, right? So you can call a toll-free number and talk to them. This is how we have to make arguments. Understanding my point? Because it is very easy to list down that this will reduce this will reduce this, but how it is going to reduce it, and at all levels. This is the first part, right? So the first thing is, and 98% of the people we'll write this only. Can you think of any other dimension? What are we missing here?
This question by giving some data about the society.
बिल्कुल दे सकते हो.
Um,
Youths, farmers, whatever. Yes.
Indians especially.
Yes, 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 yes. You can and you should. Right? Very important. Priyanshu is saying, so Australia has again come up with a law to reduce the screen time. That shows the emotional intelligence capacity of that nation. Right? So it's not just individuals, it's nations as well. So any other dimensions that we are missing, Priyanshu, Pooja? Yes, very important. So these are micro points. But what I'm trying to ask is the major dimension. So is EI enough? Right? You have to discuss how it can help. But again, there will be limitations on EI as well. It's like someone is struggling and you are saying to the person that you are not emotional intelligence. That's why you are struggling. It is like blaming the victim itself. Right? So EI in itself, obviously it's important, but we need other structural parameters as well. Right? So someone is saying, I am committing suicide, farmers. Let's take example of farmers. Are they just not emotionally intelligent? That's why they are committing suicide. No, there are structural factors involved. They had a lot of debt. Poverty is an issue. Inequality is an issue. Right? Unemployment is an issue. So idea is there are structural factors as well. So in the non-core part, just highlight that. Just even a moon diagram will do, maybe 3-4 points there. That you have to have comprehensive institutions, comprehensive laws to take care of all those things. Or EI will remain important, but again, you have to focus on these aspects as well. I hope this is clear. So many of you will leave this, and this is what makes the difference between a good answer and an average answer, right? Now, let's take another question. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? Let's at least meet proper. Yes. Okay, that is true. Okay, let's move on to this question. So you can take screenshots as well. After this session also, you can take some time out and try to brainstorm on these. Okay. So now let's give 2 minutes to think about it. Right? I want some points regarding it. I'm not asking you to create the whole answer, structure, and some important points that you can think of. 2 minutes. We'll come at back at 6:45. Are you benefiting from such kind of exercises? Online students specifically, are you benefiting from such exercises? After the session, if you want, you can comment in the comment box. Maybe it will come in live or in video section of Vajiram. There you can also put up some other things that you want in future, right? So that we can do some main brainstorming on those aspects as well. Because based on your comments only, I'll get to know what else do you want. I'll try to be as comprehensive as I can, but again, you have to tell me. Okay, final 30 seconds. Okay. Okay, let's brainstorm this now. First of all, what's the directive here? Do you think, am I audible, online students? Please confirm if I'm audible. Okay. Okay. So idea is you have to express your view, and whenever they are asking your view, it's not your view. Always understand, we are not scholars here, we are not PhD holders, we do not have any view. So idea is you have to communicate the views of all the things you have read, all the scholars you have read, all the script that you have read, right? So idea is, first thing is, do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value? First, tell me what is the meaning of sacrament. What does it mean? Okay, someone is saying very important component. What else? Yes, it's more or less basically divine, right? Ordained, something like that. So basically, it has to do, some God has made it indispensable part, right? So marriage is for two persons, if entire family becomes modern. Okay, once made, not departable. Yes, very nicely put it. So basically, when we talk about sacrament, and when we talk about in modern India and Hindu scriptures, marriage was not dissoluble, right? वो 7 जन्म का रिश्ता होता था, ठीक है? So basically, permanent characters were there. It was not based on your choice. Why I'm listing down these aspects? Because then only you will understand whether it is losing its sacredness or not, right? So based on not your wishes, but basically your society, your family, your caste, right? They had a lot of role to play when we talked about marriages, right? देखो Swaminathan, there's a lot of debate. We had a very pluralistic society, but when we talk about money smriti sort of thing, that was the guiding force at that point of time. So it was more or less, for all intent and purposes, it was permanent, right? We'll discuss that in some sociology class some other day, but for the time being, we'll have a level of permanence. So do you think it is losing its value? So first is, you may partially agree that there are some signs of declining role as a sacrament. When this is happening, that it is not a sacrament anymore, now what is it? It is more individualistic. So when you are talking about individualistic, you have to support with some data, like divorce rates are rising, right? Marriages are not just caste based now. You have a lot more choice today, right? These are the arguments that you will say, yes, it is losing some value. But at the same time, at the other aspect, you will say, if you think about, if you take some data, the last time there was a survey, around 5% marriages were only intercaste marriages. We can't even think about inter-religion marriages for now, right? There is a lot of taboo that is there. So it is still guided by these ritualistic elements. Also, you will see when we say marriage is declining as a whole, it's not just decline, right? In India, maybe you will say, someone actually commented, yes, live-in relationships are increasing, right? There are dink families, there are so many other aspects. We are not, it's not a dharma now, right? Earlier, when there was a sacred element to the marriage, it was a sanskar in Hinduism, right? Vivaha sanskar. But now, yes, it's more individualistic. But at the same time, how many people do you think don't marry in India, right? Majority of the people still believe in the institution of marriage. So there is level of this continuity. At the same time, all the rituals are also followed, right? Have you, how many, even all the IAS officers, after again reading a lot, do you think they abandon all these things? There are hardly, and that makes news. This IAS officer has done a court marriage sort of thing, right? At a good example. But 99% of the people are still in the same thing. They are following the same rituals. Okay? What else? When we talk about marriages, these are the structural parts. Now, what is the functional part? Structure, we are seeing some changes in structure, but again in functional aspects. So how it is, how the dynamics of marriages are evolving. Earlier women had only a role in domestic course, right? Now you have, yes, very decent point, Priyanshu. So earlier there was this dowry concept, it is still prevalent, right? So you will work on all these aspects, structural as well as functional. Okay, more egalitarian families are evolving, but at the same time, how many of you, all the boys out there, how many of you have actually cooked a meal yourself, right? Not once, it is very rare. We expect our mothers, we expect our wives, we expect even our daughters to cook the meals for us, right? So the ritual aspects remain because it was linked with religion as well. So idea is functional aspects are changing. There is a level of change, and this is where you can say modernization of Indian tradition is happening, right? Modernity is coming, but at the same time tradition remains. Okay. Any other points that you can add? Yes, online students. Yes, that is okay. Matlab, if you are using these keywords, dings, right? Double income, no families, no kids kind of thing, that is okay. But for one, you can actually write it down. Trauma created by the parents. I don't get the context. Emergence of nuclear. This is not a question on family directly, but idea is how marriages are evolving, right? Yes, so you can also talk about legal aspects. Again, that will go into the reason aspects, ki why it is happening. This is not the core demand, ki kyun ho raha hai aisa. But idea is it happening or not? That's the core demand. ठीक है. Again, we can discuss on that. Yes. So basically, earlier marriages was, this is what someone is saying. It was between women and men. Now we have more liberty to determine your sex, and again, the whole idea of marriage is evolving. So yes, this is what we have to convey, right? What else? Online students. Okay. ठीक है. I think that is all, right? Yes, expensive marriages, yes, big fat Indian wedding, but idea is it is not sacrament related to the sacrament argument, right? Focus on that part. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So there were two demands of the question, and then you will synthesize, right? Yes, change is visible, but it is not that everything is changing. The structure remains the same for the most of the people. Imagine someone in rural India, they cannot even think about these things. There are a lot of issues. Khap panchayats are still prevalent, right? So we cannot say you have all the choice in the world. ठीक है, I don't get it, Rehan. What is trust in the vein? ठीक है, let's move on. Similar, just I'll give you 1 minute now. Evaluate the role of social media platforms in strengthening democracy in India. What is the role of social media platforms in strengthening democracy in India? Brainstorm it, try to come up with some points, and then we'll discuss that. Okay, decent enough? Don't have this unidirectional thinking. Try to think in multiple dimensions. That's a good introduction. But again, try to be specific to social media. Yes. So first thing is you have to evaluate the role. So when we say evaluate, how far it has succeeded in strengthening democracy and how far the limitations remain, right? So first thing is you have to link social media platform with strengthening of democracy. Now for that, first you have to understand how would you say a country is democratic? How would you say that? So first thing is obviously you have election and election commission of India, their processes, right? Campaigns, okay? Also you have citizen participation, not just in elections, otherwise as well, right? So citizen centric city has to be there. Then you have to have independent institutions, right? So independent institutions like judiciary, right? So whether all these things are working fine and how social media is contributing positively and how it can contribute negatively as well, right? So at least this you should understand, right? Now when you say positive aspects, obviously you will say voice to voiceless, right? Earlier many people before before social media, it was basically very few people who were deciding everything. Now one Twitter can actually set everything on fire, right? Black Lives Matter, global movement, Me Too, global movement, right? So amplifying marginalized voices. So voice to the voiceless. It will lead to better movements like environment movements. So basically marginalized communities, marginalized sections will also benefit, right? We all know the positive aspects, right? Yes. So again, many people are saying institutions are using it. So ECI is conducting various things for voter awareness with the use of social media. A DM working in a disaster prone district actually sends some alerts, right? So all these things are there. Yes, very nice. So one of the students here offline is telling us like, yes, there's a district Vaishali in Bihar, and their DM actually sang a song to create voter awareness, right? You go and vote. So yes, this is only happening because of social media. But again, there are issues. So democracy will only thrive when citizenry is enlightened. If we are making choices by ourselves, then only democracy will thrive. But otherwise, if someone is having all the media in their pocket, right, so paid media is there, you have a lot of misinformation. So because of misinformation, there will be a lot of communal rights, a lot of issues are there, right? Polarization of society. So all these things will weaken the democracy as well, right? Yes. There are so many other campaigns as well. So idea is there are positive aspects, there are negative aspects as well, right? So you have to keep in mind that both these things have to be there. And yes, you can use these examples like I Love Muhammad campaign, etc. But again, this is too much political. Try to avoid that. Try to use some global examples, and that again that are neutral, politically neutral, right? And also always try to use some keywords. Like when we are talking about again, is whatever you are deciding now, is it your choice or because you are fed with the same content, right? So echo chambers are being created, right? Those sort of thing. And again, who is deciding now? Corporates are deciding, right? Facebook or Twitter can actually decide the whole election campaign of a particular nation, right? There is fourth, fifth generation warfare kind of thing. So where other non-state actors are promoting someone, all the handles of a political party are based in Pakistan or something like that, right? So issues are again, all the PR campaign, yes, everything is there. So you have to have both the aspects in mind. Now, because it's an issue-based question, try to give some suggestions as well. Before concluding, if it's a 10 marker, maybe you will just use a moon diagram and 2 points. If it's a 15 marker, you can use 3, 4, 5 points to actually suggest some way ahead as well, right? Yes. So whatever Muzaffarnagar rights, etc., whatever you are thinking, you can include in the form of examples. But always remember, example should not form your argument. So first should be the argument, and then you have to substantiate your argument with example. That is important, right? ठीक है? Okay. Anything else, online students? The comments are. Yes, someone is, yes, that is true. Okay, you can always say yes, ethical journalism, RTI has increased, but at the same time we have to be more responsible, right? Clickbait campaigns, these are some keywords that you can always include. Okay, now let's move ahead. This we have already played. So basically the thing I was telling you is I named this word storm battle. So always try to play this game, try to use take one keyword of your syllabus and try to brainstorm on that. Try to brainstorm on that. Make this a habit. Whenever, like in our childhood, we used to play some games, right? This character should lead to this song, this word should lead to this song. You can play with your friends as well. This is something actually I have been communicating to my students. Try to use that. It will actually lower your burden. At the same time, it will give a better understanding of your syllabus. It will help you brainstorm in a more effective manner, right? So let's play this. So imagine this word gig economy. Try to come up with 60 next 60 seconds, come up with at least 10-12 points. Okay, what is gig economy, what are the concerns, how it can be beneficial, something like that. Okay, themes and examples, arguments. I had a lot, but again we are overstretching in the session. I hope it is not getting too long. Is it getting too long? Okay, online students. Otherwise, I would have taken a lot more examples to help you brainstorm. But again, I'll try to wrap that up in future sessions. So yes, gig economy is there, right? So when you are talking about gig economy, try to think in like what is gig economy, right? Platform driven. There is no sense of security. Social security is not there. But at the same time, how it can help, right? So it can help women empowerment. So first you have to understand what, examine the role. So what role is it? Is gig economy plays in process of empowerment of women. So first thing is you have to understand empowerment. What is empowerment? You can use any framework of Neela Kabir or something, whether they have the resources, right? Whether they have the agency, and whether they have achieved something. So whenever we are talking about empowerment, so basically basic things are covered or not, whether they get the agency through that or not, or whether they have again come up with some achievements as well, right? This you can again, this can be not just women empowerment, you can talk about all the marginalized sections. Okay, so use this framework and try to see how gig economy can contribute that. So yes, it can give them jobs because entry level is low, barrier is low. So even someone who has just say not graduated, they can be a delivery agent, right? So it lowers the barrier. In patriarchal society, it gives them better opportunity to work, right? At the same time, there are issues, right? Even you will say there is some sense of patriarchy there. So women beauty parlor agents are there more, right? While drivers will be other men. Okay, so there are so many issues. So sense of security is less. They cannot work at night, right? So gig economy, yes, at certain level they have improved the empowerment wala part, but again there will be issues that remain. Because it's a issue based question, come to the suggestions that you can take. Okay, so this is there. This is something that you can, again, there are so many toppers who do this. So suppose this is a gig economy question, try to write it down. What's the introduction, how many points I can come up with, and then conclusion. Okay, these are some of the things I had for conclusions. We'll do it next time. Now always remember, brainstorming is first part, but at the end of the day you have to complete your paper in 3 hours. So you have to attempt mocks as well. So every day you can do some brainstorming, but at the same time you practice mocks, right? You write the test, right? Test in very time bound manner. Always try to save your space and time whenever you're writing answers. Try to be very effective, very precise. And after your test you have to do model answer analysis as well as your analysis of the paper, right? Then you have to have some feedback mechanism so that you can improve from that. There's no point repeating the same mistake over and over again. And finally, you have to show up every day. You have to be consistent. I always say this. I was leading the program when Shakti was a student there as well. And she started with 70 marks. She got on to 115 marks. So idea is she wrote all the tests. So there are so many toppers who started with very low marks, but again they progressed through it because of the consistency level. Now, how to analyze your mains? Again, we'll have a separate session for that, but always remember these two principles. Whenever you lose, don't lose the lesson. Always learn from the past mistakes. And finally, what you can't measure, you can't even start to manage it. Okay? So you can't manage what you can't measure. So always try to make this objective. This is a subjective exam, but try to make this objective by these sort of things. So make an Excel sheet, maybe polity test you have given, how many questions you missed the context of the question, demand of the question. In how many questions your introduction was not up to the mark. In how many questions was your conclusion not up to the mark. Points were not multidimensional. Your data or substantiation was not there. So this kind of data will tell you whether you are on the right track or not, right? So this is very, very important. Many people will say, sir, I have been trying, I have been practicing a lot of mocks, but I'm not improving. Reason is you are not working with the data. I am a computer science engineer by profession, and there was this quote that you have to code accordingly, that it should not be dependent on the individuals, right? So you make data so that it will tell you the really good picture of your preparation. That's the whole idea. Okay? So this is your own learning sheet. So have a precise learning sheet that in, say, polity, whenever right answers, I have these issues. So I have to include more number of points, or I have to draw diagrams or flowcharts in geography or modern, wherever. So try to have your learning sheet based on every subject. Okay? This is very important. Otherwise, you will not grow. And again, this is something for you. Whenever you are brainstorming, try to think of 3 reasons why something is true. So suppose this is a, I wanted to have this session a bit longer, but again, we'll see what we can do next time. So AI will eliminate unemployment in India. So this is just a statement. So what are the 3 reasons? Whenever you are walking, going to library, going for mess, you think, right? So what are the reasons? What 3 reasons you can think of that this statement is true, or otherwise? What makes it false, right? And then you synthesize this. Try to make this a habit. If you do this every day, you will see a lot of difference, right? I'll come to that, Shivam. We'll have a Q&A, and then we'll come to this Devi dichotomy, right? If you can do all this, I wish you the best. I know some of you can do it, but from my personal experience, I know many of you will need help, right? And I always believe in this, that it's the processes, the institutions are always stronger than the individuals, right? So be a part of system, be part of a system which will actually push you, help you excel. And this is what we have at Step Up Mentorship Program. So if you are targeting for 26, I am inducting 100 students for Prodigy batch, where we will be conducting everything we can for making this selection in this very year. But again, those of you who want to enroll for the next year, we are launching Step Up 2027. The batches will start from 15th of December, and it will have everything that there can be from GS point of view, right? All the features of the program, you can go through the brochure, right? There will be toppers session, there will be high videos, there will be current affairs module, right? There will be essay module, there will be mains camp, prelims camp, all the test series, everything is there, right? So just also CSAT sessions will be there. So even the notes will be provided, 1 pages, workbooks for prelims and mains. We will help you to derive topper level notes. Every week you will be tested so that you can improve. Every week there will be accountability calls every 3-4 days, so that you are consistent enough in your preparation, right? So again, the current affairs, Shakti was part of the same program, right? Piyush's essay sessions will be there. So this is it from my end for today's sessions. If you have any other question, you can, again, related to the program, you can scan this QR code, or regarding this session, I will be available in this post-test Q&A. Okay? So you can scan this, or you can actually call this number. You can call this number or scan this QR code. Right. So this is it from my end. I hope you have learned something in this session. I have tried to give my best. If you want, I will try to upload. I have to see, because this was a live session. I'll try to upload the PDF as well. But again, if you want to learn more, this video will be uploaded either in the live section or in the normal video section of Vajiram. Please leave the comment. Whatever you have learned, first, your major learning from this session. and please give a commitment, because I will be seeing your names, and I will try to, again, if you want to have some session with me, you can scan this QR and we can have a mentorship session with you as well. Okay, so this is it. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Any questions from your end? What is the range? What's the range of the marks?
It's 83 to 95.
I'll say, देखो, there are two aspects. It depends on the subjects. If you are scoring, say, again, Vajiram only, if you are part of my program, we have very scientific method of marking. And again, you'll see the mark sheets of Shakti as well. More or less, it will be aligned with the UPSC. So if you are scoring 95 in GS3, I'll say you are doing decently well. But if you are, again, having 80 marks in polity, you have a lot to cover. Or in ethics, you have a lot to cover. So this is not a big range. 83 and 95 is very normal. It's like I'm checking one paper, I gave you just half a mark less in all the questions, and you are, range is like you are scoring 120 and then 70. That's the issue. But right now you have to work on the content. You have to work on all the parameters that I have provided, those 7 parameters, right? And that's why we have this program. If you want to show me your copy, you can scan this QR, and again, you will be able to connect with me. Okay, we'll see your copy as well. देखो, Kangan is saying first complete the syllabus. Syllabus will never be completed, Kangan, right? Some student is asking, sir, it's not wise to complete the syllabus first. I have seen people turning 1 year preparation into 5 years of these plans, right? Why is that? Because they don't practice. I'm not saying don't read anything. That's why in this step up mentorship, I am giving you 1 week target. Try to achieve that target. I'm not saying 100%, 50%, 60%, 70%, but whatever is that you have learned, try to apply that in the form of test. After the test, you will have a mentorship session. You will learn from that, right? Don't think like once I will prepare everything and then I'll write the test. Okay? So so this is about this program. You can see the details by scanning the QR code, right? You scan this, our team will reach out to you. Any other question? How should I download the paper? How should I mains test? Exam hall secrecy. I've completed yes, you can download from UPSC website as well. There are previous questions. You can start with that. Okay? All right, Pooja. Anything else that you want to discuss? Should prepare before Pooja, matlab, obviously you have to prepare for something. Suppose I have given you a target of, say, emotional intelligence, attitude and aptitude. At least complete this in next 5 days, and then we'll see. Then you write the test. It should not be like I'll complete the whole ethics and then I'll write the test. And mind you, there are so many things in the market. There will be X number of test series, but test series don't serve the purpose because there's a level of consistency that you need. Everyone joins a test series, but never go to actually write the test, right? There's no accountability. So accountability is the main differentiating factor. There has to be someone who is checking on you regularly, every second day, third day, every day. You can even interact with someone, some mentor with you, right? No, not like this, Pooja. Maybe for initial 1 or 2 days you can do this. Otherwise, there's no open book test in UPSC, right? So you have to prepare according to the demand of the exam. Okay, anything else? This is the QR code, or otherwise you search in Google Step Up Mentorship Program 2027, and you will be able to find this particular program, or you contact this number. I hope the number is visible. You can call on this number. They will get back to you. Okay? Anything else that you want to discuss? Anyone? If you have any other questions, just scan this QR code or call them, and they will help you connect with me. Okay? So thank you for attending this session, but I hope before leaving, you will try to have a look, right? Whatever we have discussed, and try to make it a habit. Play some games, the things I've taught you, right? Make it a habit. Then only you will improve. Okay? So all the very best. Have a great night ahead. Okay? Bye-bye.